Hey guys, tonight we're sinking into the still, incense-sweetened corridors of ancient Egypt, where your daily routine as a temple priest begins before the sun even opens its eyes. You're barefoot, bleary, and standing beside a basin of very cold water. There are no roosters here, only the soft rustle of linen robes and the low chanting of your fellow priests as they line up for the ritual bath. The water is drawn straight from the Nile, hauled in smooth clay jugs just before dawn, and now it's your turn to step into its frigid embrace. You probably won't survive this. Not because of the cold, though that's genuinely unpleasant, but because you're about to realize just how high-maintenance ancient priesthood really was. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, post your location and local time in the comments. It's always fascinating to see where people are drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge into the sacred bathing chamber, a stone-lined room tucked inside the temple's outer walls. The floor is slick with water and powdered natron, the ancient Egyptian multipurpose salt used for everything from preserving corpses to scrubbing underarms. You crouch at the edge of the basin and ladle the chilly water over yourself, 3 times on the head, 3 times on each limb. Even your toes get their ceremonial splash. There's a sequence. There's always a sequence. Bathing isn't just about cleanliness here, it's about readiness. The gods are picky. They prefer their messengers spotless, inside and out. You don't smell like sweat or sandal leather, not if you're doing it right. You smell like lotus resin, frankincense, and a faint trace of something floral and mysterious that probably came from a plant no one can identify anymore. Your breath fogs slightly in the morning chill. Outside, the Nile glows like a ribbon of melted bronze, and somewhere in the papyrus thickets, a heron lets out a single drowsy squawk. The temple behind you is still mostly asleep, except for the sacred ibis, which is always pacing like it's late for something. You envy its feathers. See, you've got none. Not a single hair. No beard, no stubble, no fuzz. Even your eyebrows have been coaxed into invisibility by a mix of tweezing, scraping, and sheer priestly willpower. The only hair allowed anywhere near the gods is maybe the finely embroidered horsehair wig you'll don later for ceremonial processions, but even that gets aired out daily and brushed until it shines like polished lacquer. This morning, though, it's all about the bath. And the bath is only step 1. According to temple regulation, yes, that's a real thing, you're expected to bathe at least 4 times a day. Sunrise, noon, sunset, and just before sleep. Sometimes more if you've had a particularly intense dream involving crocodiles or the goddess Sekhmet breathing down your neck. Bathing is purification. Purification is proximity to the divine. And if you think that sounds exhausting, you're right. There's a reason why most priests die early and exfoliated. After the bath, a temple novice hands you a reed tray holding your grooming kit. You examine the contents like a man preparing for battle. There's your bronze razor, still sharp from yesterday's touch-up. A pebble of pumice for smoothing elbows. A strip of beeswax if you're feeling brave. And, of course, the sacred oil, mixed with myrrh, almond, and something vaguely citrusy. If the gods don't appreciate your effort, they're being very quiet about it. The shaving is meditative. You sit cross-legged in a patch of morning sun and work the blade carefully across your scalp. The bronze glints. The flies stay back, barely. The smell of oil rises gently, a sleepy halo. You nick yourself just once, near the curve of your jaw, and press a cloth to it until it clots. You mutter a prayer to Thoth under your breath, just in case he's watching. He usually is. Historians still argue whether shaving was strictly enforced across all ranks of temple staff or if it was primarily a high priestly obsession. Some scrolls suggest junior scribes and singers could get away with a bit of fuzz now and then, provided they stayed out of the sanctuary. Others argue that the no-hair rule extended even to the guy who swept up lotus petals after ceremonies. Either way, you're not taking chances. One stray hair could mean getting reassigned to dung shoveling duty in the crocodile pens. And nobody wants that. You dry off with a linen towel so stiff it might double as armor. It was washed yesterday in natron and Nile water, then laid flat on a sunstone to bake dry. You rub your arms briskly, then your legs, then pat your face like you're a worried grandmother. There's no rubbing there, you don't want to risk a rash. You've got prayers to lead today. Gods to appease. Porridge to nibble. And probably a few scrolls to recopy without dripping oil onto them. As you fold your towel, you pause to inspect your reflection in a polished copper mirror. It's a little warped, and your face appears slightly longer than usual. Still, you look priestly. Unbothered. Radiant in a tired, well-groomed sort of way. A model of what every child in the city aspires to be, bald, fragrant, and sleepy at dawn. Outside, temple drums begin their slow heartbeat rhythm. The scent of roasted barley porridge wafts in from the servants' quarters. You exhale and straighten your spine. The gods await. And your scalp is ready. The temple drums don't really stop, not ever. They just slow down or speed up, like breath. Right now, they're doing that steady thump-thump, meant to rouse the sacred spaces and the lesser gods who may have dozed off overnight. You walk barefoot across the cool flagstones, your feet brushing up flecks of dried lotus petals from yesterday's ceremony. There's a routine to all this. And it's not just spiritual, it's logistical. You head straight to the purification chamber, where you're scheduled to check in with the scribe priest and confirm your assigned duties for the day. He's already sitting there on a low stool, stylus in one hand, a plate of honey-drenched bread in the other. He doesn't look up as you approach. He just mumbles, "Storage chamber 3. Incense bowls. And don't forget to shave the armpits." It's not meant to be funny, but you chuckle anyway. Everyone always forgets the armpits. Until someone doesn't, and then the smell wafts into the sanctuary, and suddenly the statue of Horus is offended, and the chief priest is forced to spend half the afternoon apologizing to a bird god while dabbing himself with eucalyptus oil. You nod solemnly and continue down the corridor, the shaved soles of your feet making whispery slaps on the stone. The deeper you go, the darker it gets. Torches are spaced far apart here, just a flicker every few paces, and the smell shifts from incense and oil to cool, damp earth and a hint of something chalky. You pass a column where someone's etched a small drawing of a cat wearing a crown. Probably the work of one of the younger acolytes. You smirk. Even graffiti is polite here. Your first stop is storage chamber 3. Not glamorous, but essential. This is where dozens of incense bowls are kept, some chipped, some gold-plated, all in need of daily cleaning. You kneel before a shelf and begin your work, using a soft reed brush to sweep away the clumps of hardened resin. Frankincense, myrrh, cedar, each leaves behind its own ghost of scent, stubborn and oddly beautiful. As you clean, you hum softly. Not a hymn, just a tune you picked up from a basket weaver down by the river. It has no lyrics, only rhythm, and it keeps your hands moving. In the flickering torchlight, the gold bowls seem to glow from within. Your fingers shine faintly with oil and soot. It's strangely satisfying, this careful polishing. It's what passes for therapy when your entire identity revolves around divine cleanliness. You pause for a moment to stretch your back, and your thoughts wander. You remember what the old priest once told you when you first entered the temple ranks: to shave is to shed. You remove the self. What remains is duty. At the time, it sounded profound. Now, it mostly just sounds itchy. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptian priests believed the gods could truly smell them, whether all this purification was for the gods' senses or simply symbolic. But considering how deeply the rituals were embedded in temple life, it hardly mattered. Symbolism was reality. The gods weren't distant beings, they lived here, among the pillars, inside statues, tucked into the gold eyes of falcon idols and the carved claws of lion-headed deities. You blow gently into the bowl you've just cleaned. A fine puff of dust flutters out. Satisfied, you place it on the ready shelf and grab another. The temple cats arrive around mid-morning, slipping silently into the chamber like royalty inspecting their staff. The lead cat, a ginger with one chipped ear and the general demeanor of a high-ranking priestess, circles you once, then flops dramatically across your feet. You dare not move. She's chosen you. The other cats scatter across the room, nosing at baskets and half-empty oil jars, curling into sun-warmed corners. No one dares shoo them. They're sacred, after all. Embodiments of Batet herself. Also, extremely judgmental. As you lean over to set aside another bowl, the ginger cat swats at a stray curl of incense ash on your tunic. You smile. She's helping. Sort of. You finish cleaning the last bowl just as a bell sounds from deeper within the temple, the signal that it's time for midday prayers. You scoop up your tools, deposit them neatly in the reed tray by the door, and gently nudge the cat from your lap. She hops down with a miffed tail flick but doesn't claw you. That's a good omen. Your next stop is the antechamber to the inner sanctum. Here, only the fully purified are allowed to enter. You pause, instinctively checking your reflection in a polished copper disc hung on the wall. Still smooth. No rogue whiskers. You pinch your tunic straight and step forward. Two other priests are already there, murmuring softly. One is dabbing cedar oil behind his ears. The other is adjusting his linen kilt, clearly trying to smooth a stubborn wrinkle. It's a relatable struggle. No matter how clean you are, linen always has its own opinion. A junior acolyte arrives carrying a brass vessel of water and a small razor. He bows deeply and holds it out to you. You take it wordlessly and begin the second shave of the day. This one is faster, more of a touch-up, really. A skim across the arms, a swipe at the legs, a careful check around the navel. Temple etiquette states that, not even the memory of hair, should be present during audience with the gods. You suppose that's poetic. Also slightly ominous. You hand the razor back, nodding your thanks. The acolyte bows again and vanishes into a side corridor like smoke. You're ready. At least, you hope you are. The statue of Ammonius is said to be particularly sensitive to lapses in hygiene. The inner sanctum isn't entered. It's yielded to, like a mood or a very quiet opinion. You and the other two priests move in unison, each step deliberate and measured, as though the floor itself might take offense at haste. The stone underfoot is rubbed so smooth from centuries of bare feet that it feels like wet clay. A single shaft of light cuts through a slit in the ceiling, dust motes dancing in the beam like lazy fireflies. You bow low, your forehead nearly touching the polished tiles. Somewhere behind you, a clay vessel cracks softly as it cools. It's not an omen, just heat contraction, but everyone pauses anyway, as if awaiting divine feedback. None comes. The silence in this chamber is so complete it feels padded. You hear your own pulse ticking in your neck. Before you rises the colossal statue of Ammonius, carved of dark stone, adorned with gold and lapis. His gaze is eternal and extremely unimpressed. You can't help but think of him as the original, resting judgment face. His presence fills the room, even though he does absolutely nothing. That, in itself, is power. You kneel again, not out of necessity. Ammonius isn't going anywhere, but because that's how it's done. A small part of you always wonders whether the gods get bored of this. Endless kneeling. Shaving. Offerings. Praise. Then again, you once watched a woman weep openly because her bread rose slightly higher than usual, believing it a sign from the divine. So maybe the gods don't mind the repetition. People seem to love it. Your job here is simple but critical, to anoint the statue with sacred oils and check for any signs of damage or neglect. Temple statues aren't decorative, they're vessels. living embodiments. Their upkeep isn't maintenance, it's medicine. You dip your fingers into a shallow dish of oil, frankincense infused with crushed blue lotus, and gently smear it along the base of Ammonius' headdress. The scent is heady, almost narcotic. Your hands move with practiced grace, tracing patterns you've memorized but never fully understood. They came down from older priests, who learned them from older priests still, like lullabies passed through generations. Historians still argue whether these rituals were symbolic stand-ins for real communion or if the priests truly believed Ammonius was somehow watching, feeling, even judging. The temple scrolls describe breathings of statues, moments when stone and soul align. You've never seen one, but you always check the statue's lips anyway, just in case. Your fellow priest handles the feet, whispering prayers in a tone so soft it might be for his ears alone. The youngest priest, barely out of his acolyte days, is charged with brushing lint from Ammonius' divine kilt. His hands tremble slightly. You remember your first time in this chamber. The crushing sense of being too human. As you complete your circle around the statue, you pause to inspect a tiny crack near the ankle. Not new, but worth noting. You make a mental note to tell the scribe priest later, who will log it and send a carpenter priest to smooth it over. There are specialists for everything in this world, an entire cast of woodworkers who only ever touch divine furniture. Imagine being known solely for fixing sacred ankles. Your oiling complete, you step back and bow again. The chamber accepts your work with the same impenetrable silence it always has. You don't expect thunder or visions. Just the hum of tradition. That, and the soft brush of linen as your colleagues bow beside you. You exit the chamber backward, careful not to turn your back on Ammonius. This isn't a superstition, it's protocol. The gods must always be faced, like royalty or wild animals. Back in the corridor, the air feels warmer, looser, like exhaling after holding your breath. The moment you're out of earshot, one of the other priests lets out a quiet phew and shakes his arms like he's just finished lifting amphorae. You laugh, quietly. The youngest priest says nothing, still clearly stunned by the presence of the god statue, or maybe just by the weight of the oil jar he was holding for 30 minutes. It's time to eat. Meals in the temple are sparse, controlled, and weirdly delicious. Today's offering, sour barley cakes with coriander, a side of lentil paste, and, if you're lucky, a strip of dried fish so salty it might as well be a seashell. You gather your meal and sit in the shade of the portico, watching palm fronds sway gently against the pale sky. The cats have returned, drawn by the scent of fish. One flops dramatically across your feet again. Same cat. Same ritual. As you chew thoughtfully, you overhear two older priests discussing an upcoming funeral rite. Apparently, the deceased was wealthy enough to commission a full 70-day mummification, complete with golden toe caps and an emergency amulet shaped like a cucumber. You raise an eyebrow. Protection from indigestion in the afterlife, one priest explains. The other shrugs. Could happen. You finish your meal, licking the last grains from your fingers. There's no cutlery here, everything's eaten by hand, which explains the constant purification cycles. You head toward the purification chamber once more, ready for your third shave of the day. Yes. Third. The midday sun is high now, casting geometric shadows through the temple courtyards. The breeze carries the smell of heated stone and melting beeswax. It's oddly calming. Inside the purification chamber, the water basins are being refilled by an acolyte carrying an enormous clay jug that sloshes like an annoyed hippopotamus. He nods to you, and you nod back, as if to say, yes, we're all clean, and yes, we're going to get even cleaner. You begin the ritual again, this time with a slightly smaller blade and a bit more haste. You're not performing for the gods at this moment. You're preparing for the evening shift, replacing burnt-out lamps, tidying up after ceremonial dancers, and yes, possibly reciting hymns about the digestive efficiency of Osiris. As you scrape away the last stubborn hair near your collarbone, you wonder briefly how long you'll stay in temple service. Some priests serve a few years, others their whole lives. Some leave and become healers or scribes. One even opened a bathhouse in Memphis and reportedly greets guests with a joke about divine exfoliation. But for now, this is your world. The stone floors, the sacred razors, the whispering cats and golden statues. And it's all strangely soothing. Shave, pray, oil, repeat. You dry your hands on a linen cloth that smells faintly of lemongrass and consider, maybe divine hygiene is its own kind of wisdom. You drift from the purification room like a polished stone set adrift in slow-moving water, hands still damp and smelling of crushed lotus and copper blade. The temple seems to inhale and exhale with you. Every corridor sighs with faint echoes, every doorway half glows with dust filtered through the slatted roof above. You're headed now toward one of the lesser chambers, where the offerings are prepared before they reach the divine. The kitchen of the gods, some call it. You call it warm. Inside, heat radiates from clay ovens sunken into the tiled floor. The air is thick with the mingled smells of spiced grains, date mash, and slow-roasted goose. You're not here to eat, though you wouldn't say no to a scorched fig, but to assist with the sanctification of the food. Because, of course, not just any barley loaf can be given to a god. You stand beside the offering table, where a senior priest, his eyebrows shaved so finely he appears permanently surprised, inspects trays of food with the gravity of a pharaoh assessing foreign tribute. You try not to laugh as he mutters to himself about the curvature of cucumbers. Apparently, slightly bent means blessed. Perfectly straight? Suspicious. Historians still argue whether these offering inspections were serious religious acts or just thinly veiled quality control. Either way, you nod along solemnly as he passes you a tray and gestures toward the smaller altar in the corner, the one for lesser deities and protective spirits. You'll be feeding the celestial support staff today. The offering is simple: one small round of semolina bread, a drizzle of fermented honey, and 2 slices of dried fig shaped to resemble eyes. The figs are slightly lopsided. You correct them. Presentation is everything when your audience is eternal. You carry the tray with both hands, arms extended, as you pace slowly toward the altar. Your footsteps fall in rhythm with the muffled beats of a distant sistrum. Somewhere in the temple, a novice is practicing hymns again. Not bad. Still flat on the 3rd note. You reach the altar and whisper the incantation. It's short, melodic, and has an odd little click in the middle that always makes your tongue feel like it's doing a dance move. Then you bow, set the tray down, and clap your hands twice, softly. That's the cue. The gods may now dine. Of course, you'll retrieve the food later. The gods don't actually eat, at least not in the literal sense. The act of offering, the reverence behind the gesture, that's the real nourishment. You'll take the food back after the ritual and redistribute it among the priests, a holy recycling effort known as reversion of offerings. Some days it feels like a celestial lunch swap. A cat slinks past, tail high, clearly unimpressed with your fig eyes. You ignore her. From here, your duties take a more subtle turn. You're summoned to the incense stores, a vaulted room with stone shelves stacked high with linen-wrapped bundles and clay jars. Some of these resins have traveled farther than most priests ever will: imported myrrh from Punt, Syrian frankincense, gum mastic from distant islands. All traded at great cost, all destined to swirl through the nostrils of statues. You select a portion of kifi, the temple's signature blend. It smells like spiced heaven, if heaven had notes of cinnamon, mint, raisins, and a faint whisper of wine. The recipe is ancient, its proportions debated. Some scrolls claim it cures asthma, others that it invites dreams of past lives. One enthusiastic scholar priest once swore it made him speak to a hawk. You suspect it just gave him a headache. Still, the preparation is meticulous. You crush the blend with a granite pestle, adding a few drops of sacred oil. The mixture darkens and becomes a pliable lump, which you shape into tiny pyramids, just enough to burn without smothering the room. You place one on a bronze censer and light it with a smoldering reed. Instantly, the chamber thickens with sweet smoke. Your sinuses tingle. You blink slowly. Everything is soft. Floating. Like you're being wrapped in a scented towel made of fog. As the incense curls upward, you reflect on what this scent means. It's not just perfume, it's a boundary. Between the human and divine. Between the dusty courtyard and the mystery beyond. It fills the nostrils of statues, the lungs of priests, the dreams of scribes. It is inhaled by the temple itself. And now, your hands carry that scent. Even when you wash them again later, and you will, of course, you'll catch faint traces of the kiffy clinging to your wrists, your fingertips, the creases between your knuckles. The gods are sticky like that. Later, as you return to the outer court, you're approached by an older priest with a scroll under his arm and a look of mild panic. The festival of Min is coming, and apparently, someone has misplaced the ceremonial loincloths. You offer a noncommittal shrug and an apologetic, "I only handle sacred razors," but you get roped into the search anyway. You check the linen stores. You check the costume chest near the papyrus library. You even check under the statue of Hathor, just in case she's feeling cheeky. No loincloths. Eventually, you find them folded neatly in the oil press room, right beside a jar of sesame paste and someone's forgotten sandals. Mystery solved. As you walk back toward the central temple axis, carrying an armful of divinely approved undergarments, you catch sight of the mural lining the north wall. You've seen it 100 times, but today, something in the light makes it shimmer. It depicts the daily shaving of a priest, attended by 2 novices, one holding a mirror, the other a palm fan. The priest's face is serene, his limbs sleek, his scalp shining like the moon. And there it is, immortalized in pigment, your strange, sacred routine. Scrape, clean, bow, offer. Repeat. It's not glorious. But it is eternal. You pause for a moment longer, watching the painted razor poised over painted skin. Then you turn, adjust your grip on the linen bundle, and head off again through the winding, whispering halls. There's a sacred goose loose in the library. Of course there is. You find the sacred goose exactly where it shouldn't be, balanced precariously atop a stack of scrolls about lunar rituals, flapping its wings like it's delivering a sermon. One of the scribes is frozen mid-step, stylus still in hand, eyes locked in a silent negotiation with the bird. A second scribe ducks behind a pillar, muttering something about omens. You, of course, are summoned. Not because you're especially good with animals, but because you're shaved and thus deemed spiritually lighter. The idea is that you'll leave fewer worldly traces behind should the goose decide to ascend. You approach slowly. The goose glares at you, its beady eyes narrowing with ecclesiastical intensity. You whisper soothingly, invoking the name of Thoth, not because it helps, but because it feels thematically appropriate, and extend your hand. The goose honks, flaps once, then hops down and waddles away, knocking over a cup of ink as it goes. You sigh. Another offering to the floor gods. Once order is restored and the scribes resume their careful, scratchy scribbling, you sneak a glance at what they're working on. One scroll, half unfurled, contains instructions for temple dream incubation, a practice where priests and supplicants sleep within the temple, hoping to receive divine dreams as messages. The texts detail sleeping positions, recommended incense combinations, and even preferred moon phases. Some priests swear by it. Others snore through it. Historians still argue whether these dreams were taken as literal prophecy or just comforting metaphors. Either way, your job isn't to sleep, you're here to prep the space. You return to the purification basin, this time to gather scented water for the dream chamber. The water's been steeped with blue lotus, and its surface trembles as you lower a carved alabaster jug. The scent is heady, floral, and just faintly narcotic. No wonder dreams bloom here. You carry the jug through a maze of hallways, walls painted with scenes of divine boats floating across starry skies. The dream chamber is dim, its ceiling a painted cosmos. Oil lamps flicker like constellations, and cushions are arranged in a neat arc around the statue of Khonsu, the moon god, who watches you with a bemused expression. Or maybe that's just the way his eyes were carved, wide and unblinking. You fill the stone bowl in the center of the room with the lotus water and add a pinch of kifi for good measure. The smell begins to rise, mingling with the air's drowsy hush. Outside, the afternoon heat begins to soften. The temple settles into its rhythm, slow, warm, timeless. You kneel by the edge of the chamber and take a moment just to breathe. Inhale the ancient quiet. Exhale the goose-related chaos. And then, as if summoned by your moment of peace, you're called away again. A young novice bursts into the chamber, breathless and wide-eyed. The sacred bark, the small ceremonial boat used to carry statues during festivals, has gone missing. Well, not missing exactly. It's stuck. It was being cleaned by two enthusiastic but geometrically confused assistants and is now wedged sideways between two columns in the storage hall. You arrive to find the bark tilted like a stranded fish, one golden prow jammed stubbornly between a limestone pillar and a poorly placed pedestal. The assistants are red-faced and covered in polish. One has temple wax in their hair. You consider the situation. Then, as any reasonable bald man in a skirt would do, you wedge yourself under one corner and attempt a gentle lift. Nothing. You grunt. The bark groans. Somewhere, a pigeon claps its wings in sarcastic applause. Eventually, with much shuffling and a bit of impromptu geometry, the boat is freed. You all cheer softly, no clapping near sacred objects, and someone volunteers to carry it back using the longer route. You rest your hands on your knees for a moment, catching your breath. Your scalp, freshly shaved, beads with sweat. You pat it dry with the corner of your linen sash. It feels smooth. Holy. Slightly sunburned. Later, back in your private chamber, a modest alcove lined with painted reeds and a single reed mat, you reach for the little box of grooming tools tucked beneath the mat. You pull it out and take inventory. Razor. Tweezers. Bronze mirror. Smooth clay disc. A small brush for your ears. A vial of sacred oil that smells like fennel and lemon rind. Each item has been carefully chosen, ritually cleansed, and, perhaps most importantly, blessed by the high priest who once told you, clean skin makes a clear conduit. You still don't quite know what that means, but it sounded profound at the time. You sit cross-legged and begin again. Razor against skin, a familiar whisper. The gentle tug of a stray hair. The delicate work beneath the chin. No rush. You've done this 100 times, and still, it feels like a quiet prayer. A cool breeze flutters through the open slat in your wall, carrying with it the scent of baked bread and wet limestone. Somewhere, someone is singing, an old hymn to Hathor, sweet and slow. You pause, blade mid-stroke, and listen. This is the rhythm of your life. Ritual and interruption. Silence and song. Razors and robed geese. Tomorrow, you'll do it all again. But tonight, you lean back, freshly shaved and smelling faintly of sacred oils, and you allow yourself, just for a moment, to feel perfectly, pointlessly, peacefully clean. You wake just before dawn to the low groan of a temple gong, a sound designed less to jolt and more to seep through your ears like syrup. You sit up slowly, bones reluctant but trained. Even sleep, for a priest, is a cycle of purification. You dream with clean skin and wake with clean purpose. You begin, of course, with water. The ritual basin is cool in the early hours, and you kneel beside it, cupping your hands to splash your face, neck, underarms. No part of your body is exempt. Not your shins. Not your earlobes. Not even the crevice between your second and third toes. You've had lectures on that. A breeze stirs the papyrus reeds outside. The temple garden is alive with muted rustlings, a heron preening, a priest-monk sweeping sand into neat spirals. The city beyond the temple walls is just beginning to murmur. A donkey brays. Someone drops a pot. A market vendor clears his throat for the first time, which is somehow louder than a shout. You return to your chamber, towel off with a linen cloth, white, always white, and begin the second task of your morning, examining yourself in the bronze mirror. It's slightly warped, but no more than your face usually is at this hour. You tilt it to catch the light. There. A patch of fuzz near your collarbone. Unacceptable. You fetch the razor again. The trick is short, careful strokes. No rush. Never in anger. The temple scrolls advise a serene heart and steady fingers. The older priests say the gods can smell frustration. You don't believe that, exactly, but you do know that shaving angrily leads to blood, and blood leads to another ritual bath, and that's another 10 minutes you don't have. Once you're clean shaven again, you anoint your skin with the lightest touch of oil, nothing flashy. Just a dab behind each ear and one on the crown of your head, where the sun will hit first. It's like spiritual SPF. You make your way toward the inner sanctum, where you'll help prepare the statue of Ammonius Ra for its daily awakening. But before you get there, you pass the line of initiates standing in various stages of baldness. Some are puffy-eyed and raw-chinned. One looks like he tried shaving in the dark. A small trickle of blood trails down his cheek like a crimson comma. You give him a sympathetic nod. Everyone bleeds once. The statue, when you reach it, is still swathed in its sleeping cloths, richly embroidered fabric that protects its sacred form during the long night. You help fold them away, your fingers careful not to snag on golden thread. The god's face emerges in slow motion, calm, serene, unfazed by earthly concerns. You could only hope to look that collected at this hour. A senior priest recites the daily awakening hymn. His voice rises and falls like a reed flute, and you respond at the right intervals, your voice barely above a whisper. The chamber is dim, the air thick with incense and history. Somewhere beneath it all, you can still smell the faint trace of shaved skin and sanctified oil. It's oddly comforting. Your next duty is lighting the offering fire. You strike the flint carefully, aiming sparks into the bed of dry bark and resin. When it catches, you shield the flame with your palm as though cupping a newborn bird. The scent rises almost immediately, myrrh, frankincense, maybe a hint of cinnamon. You didn't add cinnamon, but the gods are known for improvisation. As the flame stabilizes, you step back and observe your work. Smoke coils upward in perfect silence. You imagine it's carrying your thoughts with it, the ones about the goose, the skewed boat, the nick on your shin you haven't told anyone about. You hope Ammonius Ra is in a forgiving mood today. After the statue has been fed, yes, fed, with symbolic morsels laid before it, and dressed in fresh linens and jewelry, you retreat again. Temple duties are like a sine wave. Peak, trough, peak, trough. Glorious rituals followed by less glamorous chores. Like shaving someone else. There's a retired priest, elderly, revered, nearly blind, who cannot perform his own purification. It's considered a great honor, or at least that's what you're told every time someone hands you his razor. You knock gently and enter his chamber. He's seated already, eyes closed, face tilted up toward the narrow window. His scalp is smooth, but his jaw bristles with uneven tufts of gray. You missed a bit, you say softly. So did you, yesterday, he replies, not opening his eyes. Left cheek. By your ear. You smile. He's not wrong. You begin the slow, meticulous work of shaving him. His skin is soft, paper thin. You hold your breath as you work, every stroke light as a whisper. The razor glides. A few stray hairs tumble like ash. You know, he says, voice barely audible, we didn't always do this. The earliest priests kept their hair. Until someone decided hair was too human. Historians still argue why, you murmur, rinsing the blade. They always will. You finish the task, pat his shoulders gently, and help him reapply his oils. Then you clean the tools, reset the linen, and leave the chamber, your hands smelling faintly of lemongrass. By now the sun is fully up, casting long stripes of light across the temple's courtyard. You take a slow walk along the eastern corridor, where the frescoes depict ancient priests in the same poses you held just moments ago. They too kneel, they too shave, they too light incense as if the entire world depends on it. Maybe it does. You find yourself in the bustling temple kitchen, a surprising place for a priest so devoted to shaving rituals. Yet here you are, surrounded by the scent of baking bread and the quiet clatter of ceramic jars. The temple cooks have just started preparing the midday meal, and the air is thick with the smell of cumin and fresh herbs. As you move between the stone ovens and wooden counters, you notice a curious tradition. The cooks insist that no priest who hasn't shaved that morning may taste the sacred bread. This isn't just hygiene, it's a spiritual safeguard. A smooth scalp is thought to keep the body's impurities at bay, so the bread, consecrated for offerings, remains pure. You peek into a large clay pot simmering gently. It's a fragrant stew of lentils, garlic, and a hint of coriander, slow-cooked to perfection. The cooks say the recipe dates back to the Middle Kingdom, a comforting reminder that even food has a history worth savoring. Near the hearth, a young apprentice is trying to balance a basket of figs on his head, much to the amusement of the others. He wobbles dangerously but doesn't drop a single fruit, a feat that earns him a round of quiet applause. You remind yourself that these moments of gentle humor are as sacred as any ritual. You pause to observe the baking of the bread, thin, flat loaves slapped onto the hot stones with a practiced hand. The dough bubbles and crisps, releasing steam that carries a subtle sweetness. It's tempting to steal a piece, but you resist. Duty first, cravings later. Historians still debate whether the connection between shaving and food purity was purely symbolic or rooted in practical concerns like lice control. Either way, the belief holds strong here, woven into the temple's daily rhythm. A sudden shout startles you. One of the cooks has spotted a mouse darting across the floor. A chase ensues, complete with shouts and laughter. The mouse escapes, proving once again that even in the sacred space, chaos finds a way. You return to your shaving kit, the smell of bread lingering on your fingers. The day presses on, rituals waiting, geese to be appeased, and the ever-important task of keeping clean. You wander down the shadowy corridors leading to the priest's communal quarters, where the morning serenity gives way to a soft hum of conversation and quiet preparation. The rooms here are simple, mud brick walls, woven mats, and small alcoves holding personal treasures like carved amulets and worn papyrus scrolls. It's in this space that the shaving ritual takes on a deeper meaning, far beyond mere cleanliness. You settle on a low stool in front of a small basin, the cool water soothing your fingertips as you prepare your tools. The razor gleams in the dim light, its edge honed to perfection through years of ritual sharpening. Each stroke you make isn't just about removing hair, it's about shedding impurities, both physical and spiritual. The smoothness of your scalp becomes a symbol of rebirth, a blank canvas where divine energy might more easily flow. Some priests believe the absence of hair helps prevent the accumulation of negative thoughts, almost like clearing out mental cobwebs. Others argue this is merely superstition, but in your heart, you feel the truth of the practice settle like a gentle weight. Nearby, an elderly priest recounts a tale from the Old Kingdom, about a young man who refused to shave, insisting his hair was his strength. The gods, it said, sent a swarm of flies to plague him until he relented. You smile at the story, though historians still debate whether this was a cautionary myth or based on actual events. The air carries the faint scent of lotus blossoms, a reminder that even in this austere setting, beauty persists. You run your hand over your scalp, appreciating the smoothness beneath your fingers. The ritual brings you a quiet calm, the kind that seeps deep into your bones. As you finish, You wrap your head in a linen cloth, soft and cool against your skin, to protect the freshly shaved surface from the sun's harsh touch. Outside, the temple bells toll softly, marking the passage of time in this timeless place. You rise, ready to face the day's duties, your scalp shining faintly under the morning light, a testament to the power of small, deliberate acts. You step into the temple courtyard where the sun spills golden light over sandstone walls etched with centuries of prayers and carvings. The courtyard hums softly with the shuffle of sandals and the murmur of distant voices preparing for midday ceremonies. You notice the occasional flicker of shadow where a palm leaf drifts in the breeze, offering fleeting relief from the growing heat. Here, the importance of shaving reveals itself beyond mere ritual. It's practical. A clean-shaven head reduces the risk of lice infestations, which in the warm Egyptian climate can spread swiftly and disrupt even the most sacred of routines. Though the temple is a place of spiritual purity, it's also a living community, prone to the same small annoyances that plague any populous settlement. You pause beside a stone basin where water is drawn from the Nile's sacred flow. Priests gather, dipping their hands and faces into the cool liquid, reinforcing their commitment to purity throughout the day. You join them, the water a refreshing balm to your warm skin. Nearby, a novice struggles with his razor, his hands trembling slightly. You offer a patient smile, remembering your own early attempts. The act of shaving, especially the delicate scalp, demands steady fingers and a calm mind, traits cultivated over years of practice. The elders remind you that shaving was once reserved for the highest ranks, but as the temple expanded, the practice extended to all priests. This shift, still debated by scholars, reflects changing attitudes toward cleanliness and religious symbolism over centuries. A sudden gust stirs the scent of palm dates and frankincense, carrying it to your nostrils like a gentle invitation to focus. You breathe deeply, savoring the moment. In the distance, the rhythmic beating of drums signals the start of a procession. You straighten, knowing your shaved head will catch the sun's rays just right during the parade, a subtle glow reflecting your devotion. You glance down at your hands, recalling the razor's smooth glide across your skin. It's a small ritual, but one that sets the tone for every hour to come. You find yourself in a quieter wing of the temple, where the libraries of papyrus scrolls stack high, their ancient wisdom a silent backdrop to your thoughts. This is where priests retreat after morning duties to study, reflect, or engage in theological debates that have spanned centuries. But even here, the rule is clear: a clean-shaven head signifies readiness and respect for the sacred texts. You settle into a cool stone nook, the air tinged faintly with the scent of old ink and dried reeds. The smell is oddly comforting, like an ancient perfume worn by the scholars of the past. As you run your fingers over the smooth scalp beneath your linen head wrap, you reflect on the symbolism of shaving as a form of humility, a shedding of vanity before the divine. The scrolls you open today describe the origins of the shaving ritual, tracing back to the earliest dynasties. The priests who first adopted it did so, some say, to distinguish themselves from ordinary citizens, while others argue it was a practical measure against the desert's harsh environment. Historians still debate which came first, the symbolic or the practical. A curious footnote mentions the use of crocodile dung as a form of sunscreen, applied with a cautious finger before the days of linen head wraps. You shudder slightly, imagining the texture, but can't help but admire the resourcefulness. Nearby, an elderly scribe adjusts his own shaven head before returning to his meticulous copying of sacred hymns. You watch the graceful curve of his razor's path, a silent dance repeated daily. It's in these small, repetitive acts that the temple's rhythm finds its heartbeat. You allow your eyes to drift closed briefly, the gentle rustle of papyrus and the distant chanting creating a soft lullaby. For a moment, you forget the sun outside, the weight of your duties, and simply exist in this timeless space. The smoothness of your scalp feels like a secret between you and the gods, a subtle reminder that devotion often lies in the smallest details. You follow a narrow, shadowed passage deeper into the temple, where the priests prepare for one of the day's most solemn duties, the purification ritual. This ceremony is all about cleansing body, mind, and spirit, and the shaved head plays a starring role. The smooth scalp is said to be more receptive to the sacred waters poured during the rite, allowing blessings to soak in fully. You watch as your fellow priests remove their linen wraps, revealing gleaming, hairless heads that catch the flickering light of oil lamps. The air is cool here, a quiet contrast to the sun-baked courtyards outside. You feel a sense of anticipation ripple through the group, as if the very walls hold their breath. The purification begins with the sprinkling of Nile water, mixed with fragrant oils and crushed myrrh. Each drop beads on your smooth skin, cool and refreshing. The ritual's rhythm is slow, deliberate, almost hypnotic. It's easy to imagine this being a moment of true spiritual cleansing, not just for the priests but for the temple itself. An amusing anecdote circulates quietly. Some priests reportedly tried to avoid shaving, hoping to bypass this ritual, only to find their robes mysteriously soaked through by the sprinklers. The temple's way of insisting on participation, perhaps. Scholars still argue whether the shaved head in purification rituals had more practical benefits, such as preventing lice, or if it was purely symbolic, marking a fresh start. Either way, the act of shaving remains a powerful, tangible commitment. You catch your reflection in a polished bronze basin. Your scalp shines softly, a beacon of your dedication. You can almost feel the ancient prayers hovering just above your skin, whispering promises of protection and peace. The ritual winds down, and the priests begin to redress in crisp linen robes, their movements slow and graceful. The day marches on, but for a brief moment, the world feels quiet and still. You step outside into the courtyard where the afternoon sun has softened into a warm, golden glow. The temple gardens stretch around you, carefully cultivated beds of papyrus, lotus flowers, and medicinal herbs. Here, the priests tend to plants believed to hold powerful healing properties, a reminder that their duties extend beyond ritual to the practical care of body and spirit. Your smooth, shaved scalp feels cooler beneath the gentle breeze, a relief from the desert heat. The practice of shaving, you remind yourself, was partly about comfort, minimizing sweat and irritation under the relentless sun. It's a small mercy in a harsh climate that demands constant adaptation. You kneel beside a patch of chamomile, its delicate white flowers swaying softly. Chamomile tea was often brewed to soothe headaches and promote restful sleep, a connection you find oddly comforting given your current task. Nearby, the scent of mint mingles with the dry earth, a gentle reminder of the temple's subtle fragrances. The gardeners speak in hushed tones about the sacred properties of various plants, some tracing their uses back to ancient papyri. One insists that rubbing crushed leaves on the scalp after shaving wards off itchiness and insect bites, a quirky remedy that survives alongside more formal rituals. Historians still debate how much of the temple's botanical knowledge was shared beyond its walls. Some argue it was closely guarded, while others believe it spread through trade and travelers' tales. You pause to observe a small bronze statue of Sekhmet, goddess of healing and war, her fierce gaze softened by the afternoon light. The priests here see her as a protector, one who demands discipline, which includes the unyielding requirement to stay shaved. As you rise and brush the dirt from your robes, you notice a group of children playing nearby, their heads mostly shaved in imitation of the priests. You smile, remembering your own first shave and the mix of pride and uncertainty it brought. The day begins to wane, but the temple's quiet rhythms continue, each shaved head a testament to faith, discipline, and a little practical wisdom. You find yourself at the temple's water basin once more, this time observing a curious tradition involving shaving and ritual cleansing before nightfall. As the sun dips lower, the priests gather for a second round of personal purification, reinforcing the day's earlier efforts. Your scalp gleams under the fading light, the result of the morning's meticulous grooming. This evening ritual is a time of quiet reflection, washing away not just dirt but the day's accumulated distractions. You gently trace the contours of your scalp, noting how the absence of hair changes the sensation. The skin feels more exposed yet strangely comforting, like a familiar friend. The water is drawn from the Nile's purest source, mixed with a fragrant blend of oils, often frankincense and myrrh, chosen for their calming properties. You breathe in deeply, letting the scent soothe your mind as the cool water runs over your fingers. A fellow priest shares a light-hearted story about a novice who once shaved off an eyebrow by mistake, leading to an embarrassing but ultimately harmless lesson in humility. You chuckle softly, appreciating these moments of levity amid solemn duties. Scholars continue to discuss whether the twice-daily shaving and washing routines were primarily about hygiene, spiritual purity, or social signaling. It's likely a mix of all three, layered over centuries of tradition. Outside, the temple begins to quiet, shadows lengthening and softening the sandstone walls. You wrap your head in a linen cloth, feeling its gentle texture against your now smooth scalp. The ritual signals the close of the day, a reminder that even the most devout must rest. You settle into your quarters, the rhythmic sounds of the temple lulling you towards sleep. Your thoughts drift to the strange but comforting discipline of shaving, an act both ancient and deeply personal, linking you to generations of priests who walked these same halls. As the night deepens, you feel a quiet gratitude for these small, deliberate acts that bring order and peace. You wake to the soft glow of dawn filtering through the temple's high windows, casting long, gentle shadows on the cool stone floor. The day begins with a familiar, almost meditative ritual, shaving. The temple's razor awaits you on the wooden stand, its blade catching the first light. This daily act is both a physical and spiritual reset, a way to shed yesterday's cares and prepare anew. The practice of shaving your entire body, yes, not just your scalp, was common among priests. Hair, in this belief, could harbor impurities and invite negative spirits. Removing it was a way to maintain a sacred cleanliness, an external sign of internal discipline. You dip the razor into water, the blade gleaming sharp and ready. As you begin, the steady strokes create a rhythmic soundtrack, a soft scratching that seems to harmonize with the temple's distant chants. The smoothness that follows is like a gentle rebirth, skin refreshed and vulnerable. Curiously, some priests would use honey or resin on their freshly shaved skin, believed to protect and heal. The sticky sweetness contrasts with the coolness of water, a sensory reminder of care even in austerity. You imagine the mild scent lingering softly throughout the day. The origins of this full-body shaving tradition remain a topic of scholarly debate. Some argue it evolved primarily for hygiene in the hot, dusty climate. Others suggest it was a purely religious mandate symbolizing purity. Perhaps it was both, intertwined like the sacred papyrus scrolls you study. You glance in a polished bronze mirror, the smooth, hairless reflection looking back at you with quiet dignity. It's a look that speaks of devotion, discipline, and a connection to the divine that transcends the physical world. As you finish and don your linen robes, you feel the comforting weight of routine, the steady rituals that anchor life within these ancient temple walls. The morning moves gently into midday, and you join the procession of priests preparing to present offerings at the temple altar. Your shaved head glistens softly beneath the sunlight filtering through the open courtyard, the bare skin catching every flicker of warmth. This visual uniformity, the sea of smooth scalps, creates an almost otherworldly atmosphere, as if the priests are a single living vessel dedicated wholly to the gods. The offerings today are simple but meaningful: fresh bread, fragrant oils, and golden amulets. You carry your share carefully, mindful that every action is an expression of reverence. The shaved head acts as a silent signal to the crowd, an unspoken assurance of your purity and dedication. You remember reading that some ancient Egyptian priests even shaved their eyebrows and eyelashes, not just to stay clean but also to maintain an aura of otherness. This choice, historians argue, might have served to separate the sacred from the profane, physically marking those who stood between the mortal and divine realms. Nearby, a young acolyte stifles a yawn. The routine is long and slow, perfect for easing the mind into a calm rhythm, ideal for your sleepy audience, if you were telling this story aloud. A light joke crosses your mind: no wonder naps were legally required for Ottoman bakers, maybe temple priests had similar rules. As you move through the temple, the scents of incense and fresh papyrus mingle with the warmth of stone and sun. Your shaved head feels cool under the linen wrap, a soft contrast to the temple's earthy hues. The day's ceremonial duties continue, but in these moments, the shaving tradition feels less like a chore and more like a shared, peaceful rhythm, connecting you to centuries of priests who have walked this same path. As the offering ritual concludes, you linger in the incense chamber, where the air is thick with the curling smoke of burning myrrh and kifi. It settles on your skin like a veil, one more invisible layer of protection. You've noticed over time that your freshly shaved scalp absorbs these smells more directly, each aromatic note more vivid without the barrier of hair. You rub a bit of oil along your neck and shoulders, the temple blend known for calming the nerves and preserving the skin after repeated shaving. Even now, you still feel the faintest sting where the razor passed too close this morning. One of the older priests catches your wince and chuckles softly. He tells you that in his youth, shaving nicks were considered divine reminders to slow down and breathe. Historians still debate whether temple oils were a form of early dermatological science or simply ceremonial. Probably both. Many were made from ingredients like morina and castor oil, valued for their soothing properties. You take a seat beside a window overlooking the temple garden. Below, a pair of ibis birds wander among the lotus blooms, their feathers gleaming. You can't help but feel a kinship with them, meticulously groomed, deliberate in movement, quietly watchful. The afternoon heat begins to settle, thick and unmoving, but your bare skin allows the breeze to find you more easily. It's one of the little-known perks of constant shaving, air circulation. No wonder so many priests looked serene, even in the summer sun. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the hush. The act of keeping oneself clean-shaven becomes a sort of mindfulness, a daily commitment to presence, clarity, and quiet focus. You step into the scriptorium, a cool, shaded room filled with reed pens, black and red ink palettes, and rows of unfinished scrolls. It's here that the priests record sacred texts, astrological observations, and the temple's daily happenings. Even in this intellectual chamber, grooming matters. Your smooth head and clean body are seen as signs of mental discipline and spiritual alignment. The scribes sit cross-legged, each with a shaved crown that glows faintly in the lamplight. Without strands of hair to collect sweat or dust, the focus here is on clarity, in both skin and script. You pick up a stylus and begin copying a hymn to Thoth, god of wisdom and writing. The repetitive, meditative nature of the work has a trance-like quality. Someone sneezes, and a wave of murmured prayers follows, rituals meant to ward off illness. You recall that priests often shaved to reduce the risk of lice and infections, especially in tight quarters like this. Clean skin meant fewer hiding places for trouble. Some scrolls even mention temple barbers inspecting each priest weekly, using sharpened bronze razors and a keen eye for missed stubble. One of the scribes jokes about inventing a spell for hair regrowth, strictly to test the god's patience. The room laughs quietly. Humor, even in temples, finds its way in. It keeps things human. The scent of ink and oiled parchment fills the room. You find yourself slowing your breath, matching the rhythm of your strokes, feeling that strange blend of bodily awareness and mental drift that only long routines can bring. The hairlessness becomes part of the ritual, an anchor in the blur of time and task. Later, in the outer courtyard, you help prepare for an incoming group of pilgrims. They've traveled far, through the delta's humid marshes and across sun-baked roads, to offer prayers and seek blessings. Some arrive in ornate linen, others barefoot and dusty. Most are curious about the temple's ways. You overhear murmurs about the priest's appearance. A woman whispers to her son, "They shave even their arms?" Her voice is part awe, part mild horror. You smile to yourself. Yes, even the arms. And the chest. And, yes, the legs. The goal is to become a vessel so pure that nothing of the outside world clings to you. As you pass among the pilgrims, you notice some of them mimicking temple behavior, walking quietly, bowing deeply. One young man has even shaved his head, though unevenly. It's both touching and a little tragic. You gently offer him a cloth to wipe away sweat, the gesture more telling than words. This widespread imitation fuels ongoing historical debates. Were temple priests fashion influencers of their time? There's evidence to suggest that elite households began adopting the clean-shaven look for banquets and formal events, at least partly inspired by religious aesthetic. You help distribute small tokens, blessed water, bits of natron, scraps of linen infused with perfume. All carry traces of the temple's purity practices, distilled into tangible forms for the pilgrims to take home. And as the crowd thins, you feel your skin, bare, cool, strangely alive in the fading light. The hairlessness is no longer a novelty, it's an extension of who you are. A skin-bound uniform of belief, the evening ritual draws near, and the temple vibrates with low chants and the clatter of ceremonial tools. You make your way to the sacred pool, where another round of purification awaits. Even after all the shaving, all the oils, all the washing, there is still one more cleansing to be done. It's a devotion that never ends. You kneel by the water, your smooth reflection rippling before you. The coolness of the pool invites you, a liquid lullaby to the senses. You scoop water onto your arms, your face, your scalp. The sensation is immediate, soothing, resetting, quieting. A senior priest walks past, his bald head covered in a ceremonial blue pigment for a festival tomorrow. It's rare, but sometimes priests adorn their bare skin as part of seasonal rituals. The effect is striking, otherworldly, even. Scholars argue whether such adornments were meant to glorify the gods or simply to draw attention during public rites. Perhaps it was both, the shaved head acting as a canvas for holy expression. You prepare the altar for night prayers, laying out lotus petals, incense, and small votive offerings. With every step, your bare feet and smooth skin feel more connected to the stone beneath you, to the air, to the temple's slow breath. In that moment, you recall a proverb carved on an old lintel near the sanctuary: to strip the body is to hear the gods better. Whether literal or poetic, you can't say. But it feels true. Darkness cloaks the temple now, and the oil lamps flicker with a sleepy orange glow. You retreat to the dormitory, where rows of linen-cushioned mats stretch under vaulted ceilings. A quiet hum of breath and whispered prayers fills the room. Everyone here is smooth-skinned, quiet, nearly identical in silhouette, stripped of ornament, reduced to essence. Before lying down, you check your scalp with practiced fingers. Any missed stubble? Any irritation? All clear. You apply a thin balm of aloe and sandalwood, soothing the skin and easing the senses. One of the novices lies beside you, restless. He murmurs, "Why can't we just leave a little bit? Like eyebrows?" You smile in the dark. Because the gods might frown, you whisper, though your tone is more gentle tease than stern reminder. The rules of hairlessness are many, but the reason, like much in temple life, boils down to clarity. The fewer distractions, the easier it is to hold space for the divine. No fuss, no frizz, no vanity. Even now, lying in near silence, you can feel the absence of hair as a presence, cool, exposed, sensitized. It's a strangely grounding sensation, like knowing nothing extraneous is between you and the world. Historians still argue whether all this effort truly mattered to the gods, or whether it was simply human devotion made visible. But in your bones, or at least your bare scalp, you believe the act is its own kind of prayer. Sleep comes slowly, gently. Not because you're tired, but because everything unnecessary has been cleared away. You lie back, freshly shaved, clean, and utterly at peace. The next morning begins in silence, broken only by the rustle of linen robes and the faint splashes of water from the washing basins. You rise early, before the ibis birds begin their chattering, before the temple's corridors grow warm from the sun. There's something oddly luxurious about being awake before the world stirs, your body already clean and your skin still soft from last night's balm. You sit cross-legged on a reed mat and take a slow breath. The novice from yesterday is still sleeping, his head barely covered in regrown fuzz. He'll be reminded gently today that it's time for another round with the razor. Not as punishment, but as discipline. Just like sweeping the stones or copying a hymn. Nearby, a small wooden chest holds the temple's grooming supplies: bronze razors, sharpened on whetstones, rounded tweezers for stubborn follicles, linen cloths soaked in cold herbal tea to soothe the skin afterward. You recognize your own kit, wrapped in a worn reed mat, lovingly oiled to keep it rust-free. Historians still puzzle over the extent to which personal grooming was communal or individual in these temples. Some sources suggest barbers assigned to groups of priests, others point to private ritual spaces for self-care. You've experienced both, a trusted older priest carefully shaving your neck one day, then managing it solo the next. You pass your razor lightly across your chin, checking for the slightest stubble. It's the kind of routine that becomes unconscious, muscle memory guided by centuries of belief. The stroke, the inspection, the rinse. The simplicity of it is meditative. And there, before the full sun breaks over the courtyard, you're already ready for the day. No armor. No hair. Just clarity. After morning prayers, the temple shifts into its daily rhythm, rhythms shaped not only by chants and offerings, but by maintenance. You're assigned to the preparation chambers today, assisting with ritual textiles. Even these garments follow the principles of purity, no elaborate embroidery, no dyes, and certainly no stray hairs. You handle the white linen carefully, folding and smoothing it. The material is light, meant to breathe against bare skin. You remember a story from your early training, that a priest was once excused from service because a single thread from his undergarment had been contaminated with dog hair. That might be an exaggeration, but the idea sticks. Nearby, a fellow priest uses a sticky resin to lift lint from another robe. It's a trick passed down through generations, made from a pine-based sap mixed with honey. Sticky enough to clean, gentle enough not to damage. Another subtle benefit of a hairless body, nothing to shed, nothing to cling. The chamber is quiet. Your skin feels the movement of air differently now, like 1,000 invisible fingers brushing against your arms. You've become more sensitive to heat, to wind, even to the shift of shadows. Scholars still debate whether such hypersensitivity was a side effect or the purpose of all this grooming. Did the gods want you to feel more? Or was that just a fortunate side effect? You pause to stretch, your joints creaking slightly. No weight of hair, no dampness, no distraction. Just you, the linen, the temple's soft echoes. You wonder if, over time, you'll start to feel what the gods feel. Later in the day, you assist with an unusual ritual, preparing the sacred bull for a procession. The Apis bull, believed to be an earthly incarnation of Ta, is given special care. His handlers are already at work, washing his hide and brushing it to a shine. Even he, it seems, is subject to the same obsession with grooming. You hold a shallow dish of perfumed oil, gently applying it along the bull's horns as instructed. The scent is earthy, floral, and a little musky, intended to both honor and calm him. You glance at the animal's flanks, where patches of fur have been carefully trimmed for symbolic markings. This raises one of those classic scholarly questions: why did Egyptian priests require full depilation for themselves, yet permit symbolic grooming on their sacred animals? Some say it was about differentiation, shaving the human body to distinguish it from the animal world. Others argue that even divine beasts were gently shaped to fit human ideas of order. The bull shifts, his muscles rippling. You steady him with a hand on his side, your fingers aware of every contour of your own hairless arm. You feel oddly mirrored, two beings, both cleansed, both anointed, both bound by tradition. When the procession begins, you step back, watching the bull pass under a canopy of palms and linen banners. The crowd cheers, but the priests remain composed. You catch your reflection in a polished copper shield, clean, bare, ceremonial. It's strange how normal this version of yourself now feels. You reach up to your scalp, not out of habit, but reassurance. Still smooth. Still ready. Evening winds stir the trees in the temple courtyard, and you're called to another quiet duty, checking the younger initiates for grooming compliance. It's more tedious than glamorous, but also oddly intimate. You sit under a shaded colonnade as each novice kneels before you, their heads bowed, not in reverence, but to show their scalps. You run your fingers across each head, feeling for missed patches, rogue stubble, or irritated spots. Most pass with ease. A few require a return to the shaving bench. One boy winces as you touch a spot behind his ear, too rushed, too careless. You dip a cloth into cooling balm and dab the area gently. Don't rush, you murmur. The gods aren't in a hurry. He nods, blinking hard. You remember being him once. This practice of peer inspection wasn't just about vanity, it was a shared responsibility, a kind of monastic accountability. Historians believe that even high-ranking priests submitted to it, blurring lines of hierarchy when it came to personal upkeep. You note the entries in the grooming ledger, a simple papyrus scroll with columns for date, inspection results, and treatment notes. It's dry reading, but strangely human. You can imagine a future historian poring over it, wondering what it meant to be hairless in devotion. One novice leans close and whispers, "Do you ever miss it?" You pretend to think. "Only when the wind bites," you reply. He laughs, and the tension breaks. The sun slips lower, and the last scalp passes under your fingers, warm, vulnerable, obedient to a rhythm older than either of you. That night, a storm rolls in from the east, sweeping sand and salt into the temple walls. You lie awake on your mat, listening to the whine of wind slipping through the columns. Without hair to muffle the sound, every gust seems closer, more insistent. You wrap yourself tightly in a linen sheet, more for the sensation than the warmth. The bare skin of your arms and legs tingles, alive to every current of air. You remember a saying one of the elders once shared, "A shaved priest sleeps like the stones, exposed but unmoved." You drift toward sleep, but your mind tugs elsewhere. You wonder about the first priest who decided to shave everything. Did it feel like rebellion? Like piety? Or was it just practical, an itchy rash, a lice outbreak, a personal experiment that became canon? Historians still argue whether this full-body shaving began in one cult center and spread, or if it was a parallel development across temple regions. Either way, it took root deeply and never let go. Lightning flashes briefly, illuminating the pillars. You feel the echo of thunder through the soles of your feet, and again, the absence of hair seems almost sacred. You are one with the elements, not insulated, not hidden. Eventually, you do sleep, face pressed into linen, heart slowed by routine. The storm may rage, but your body is quiet, stripped of all distraction. Hairless, yes, but also, in a strange way, weightless. And tomorrow, you'll wake and do it all again. The sun is already high when you step into the temple's open-air purification court, sandals brushing across warm stone. Today's assignment is less glamorous, cleaning the drainage channels. It's the sort of task that seems beneath a priest, until you recall that everything, even waste, must be ritually purified. You squat by the limestone trench, the scent of herbs and faint rot mingling in your nose. The air is thick with stillness, and your skin feels tacky. Dust clings easier when there's no hair to trap it first. You scoop muck with a carved wooden paddle, the sludge sliding sluggishly into a waiting jar. One of the senior priests passes and jokes, "Even the Nile's cleaner than your robe now." You smirk, then notice he's freshly shaved, his scalp glowing slightly under the sun. It's a small but telling detail. No matter the status, no one skips their grooming. Interestingly, scholars still wonder how deeply these grooming routines affected class dynamics within the priesthood. Did older priests secretly resent the weekly shavings? Did novices secretly enjoy it, relishing how it evened the hierarchy for a brief moment? As you rinse the last of the channel clean, you notice a smear of dark resin clinging to your shin, sap from yesterday's inspection oils. You wipe it off with a damp cloth, momentarily admiring how smooth your leg still feels, despite all the kneeling and crawling. It's absurd, you think, how deeply you've internalized the hairless ideal. You haven't just accepted it, you defend it. It's your badge of belonging, even in a drainage ditch. A breeze stirs, carrying the scent of lotus flowers from the inner sanctum. You take a deep breath, sling your jar over your shoulder, and head back toward the temple's main hall, clean. As always, inside the sanctum's antechamber, preparations are underway for a moon offering, an elegant, understated ritual reserved for only the most precise priests. You are chosen to assist, which is both an honor and a logistical headache. The moon goddess deserves no distractions. No stumbles. No rogue armpit hair. You check your body once more, arms, chest, legs, even the nape of your neck where the razor sometimes misses. You tug the linen tighter and step into the perfuming chamber. Here, delicate oils are mixed into the air via heated alabaster bowls. The fragrance is heady, frankincense, blue lotus, and a trace of cedar. You stand quietly while another priest anoints your forehead. The oil feels cool, and for a moment you imagine what it must feel like if you had hair to soak it up. Instead, it slicks your skin with a luminous sheen. Historians still debate how much of this ritualistic grooming was functional versus symbolic. Was the oil meant to protect your body? Or simply to signal your readiness to become a conduit between earth and divinity? You don't have time to ponder it further. The doors open. The chant begins. Inside the chamber, the moonlight slices cleanly through a carved oculus above. The silver ray lands on the altar exactly where it should. You walk in barefoot, your skin catching the chill of the stone floor. Each step is slow. Ceremonial. The other priests move in tandem with you, a soft rustle of linen, not a single whisker between you. You feel like a moving statue, perfect, hairless, eternal. And the moon sees you. A vessel. Not a man. When the ceremony ends, it's nearly midnight. The temple glows in moonlight and silence. You retreat to the outer courtyard for a drink of water, shared with a fellow priest whose scalp still glistens from the ritual oil. Do you ever miss it? He asks. Not the first time you've heard the question. Miss what? You reply, knowing full well. He gestures vaguely. The feeling. Wind in your beard. Shade in your eyebrows. You shrug, sipping from the ceramic cup. You get better wind this way. He laughs, but it fades quickly. You both stare out across the gardens, neatly trimmed, much like yourselves. It's comforting, in its way. Predictable. No messy wildness. Some ancient scrolls describe how even during famines or warfare, priests maintained their grooming schedules. A sort of stubborn hope. If you're still hairless, the gods haven't left. Historians argue whether that consistency was spiritual or political. Was grooming a way to keep order in chaos? Or just temple PR? You sit on the cool step, stretching your legs, watching your own toes flex in the moonlight. No calluses. No nail dirt. Even your feet, polished and smooth. I think we're just afraid of going feral, you murmur. Too late, he says with a grin. You both laugh, and in that sound, there's something deeply human. Not just priests. Not just symbols. Just tired men, clean and trying. You rise slowly and return to your cell. The linen sheet pulls softly across your skin. You sleep without dreams, which is, perhaps, the point. Morning light leaks in through the slit above your cell door, and with it, the slow realization that your shaving bowl is missing. You rise groggily, stretch, and begin the small scavenger hunt that defines your day. Priests are nothing if not creatures of habit, and losing your tools is like forgetting your name. You check the wash basin room first. No luck. Then the herb room. Empty. Finally, the linen chamber, where your bowl sits neatly by the bombs, polished and still warm. Someone's borrowed it, probably the new initiate who shaved too quickly last time. You sigh, pick it up, and return to your cell. This small interruption reminds you how reliant you've become on this ritual. The cool water. The practiced hand. The slight sting when the razor nicks. It centers you, like a morning prayer for the body. Historians still question whether grooming tools were personal or communal in temple life. Some texts describe engraved bowls passed down like heirlooms. Others suggest shared kits kept under lock. Yours has your initials scratched faintly into the base. Nothing fancy. Just a sign that it's yours. You fill it, press the razor to your chin, and begin again. One careful stroke at a time. Each swipe erases the past day, its sweat, its stray thoughts, its accumulated dust. You emerge from it smoother, lighter, and, somehow, more yourself. Outside, the chants begin. You're not late, but close. You rinse the bowl and step into your sandals. The day waits. Hairless. Ready. You're summoned to the house of life this afternoon, a rare treat. This is the temple's library, where scrolls are copied, hymns recorded, and medical texts debated. It smells of ink and old papyrus, and the silence is so thick you could slice it with a razor. You're helping to recopy a scroll on wound balms, many of which were originally designed for post-shaving irritation. The script is meticulous, each hieratic symbol stroked with care. Your fingers feel steady as you work, but your bare forearm brushes against a sharp reed edge, and you wince. Just a scrape, but enough to make you pause. The scribe next to you notices and offers a thin paste, poppy and honey, smeared onto a linen strip. You press it on, grateful. Being hairless doesn't make you invincible. Curiously, many surviving temple medical texts include long sections on skin maintenance, aloe balms, antifungal resins, sun protection oils. It's clear that if priests shaved everything, they also spent half their time trying to keep their skin from falling apart. Scholars still debate how much of this was medicine versus ritual. Was a balm truly healing, or just part of the performance? You flex your wrist, returning to the scroll. Your hand steadies again. The scribe next to you hums softly, a tune older than writing. Outside, someone sweeps the courtyard. Inside, ink dries. You copy the next line, cleanliness is the vessel of divinity. You don't even blink. Today, you're granted a half day of rest, and it feels like a festival. No duties. No chanting. Just you, the sun, and a quiet garden tucked behind the temple's west wall. The scent of fig leaves and wet stone fills your nostrils. You lie back on a smooth bench, eyes closed, skin soaking in the sun's warmth. Without hair, it's more intense. There's no filter, no insulation. Your scalp tingles under the heat, but it's not unpleasant. Just, direct. You remember a joke from your youth: priests don't tan. They steep. A lizard skitters nearby. You tilt your head and catch your reflection in a pool, your face shiny with sweat, eyes calm, body lean and hairless. You almost look like a statue. You wonder if that's the point. Some historians argue that Egyptian temple grooming mirrored the art style, bodies depicted as smooth, ageless, unburdened. Aesthetic aligned with theology. But was it art copying priests? Or priests copying art? You reach down and splash water onto your chest, watching the droplets slide cleanly, catching no fuzz, no hairs. The simplicity of it makes you smile. You sit there a while longer, feeling more relaxed than you've been in weeks. No razor in hand. No oil to apply. Just you, warm stone, and silence. You think, perhaps, this is what the gods wanted all along, not cleanliness, but stillness. And for once, you give it to them. The next morning, you're asked to train a visiting novice from a Delta temple, a shy boy with a downy mustache and a twitchy kind of energy. His voice cracks when he speaks. You remember that kind of nervousness. It's the sound of someone who isn't quite ready to be seen. You guide him through the shaving process, step by step. Angle the blade. Watch the skin tension. Always rinse with cold water. He tries, but flinches on every pass. You pause and switch places. Watch, you say. Then try again. You move with confidence, muscle memory turning ritual into art. He watches, eyes wide. Do you ever cut yourself? Sometimes, you admit. But not lately. The blade and I have an understanding. He laughs, and it's the first sound of ease you've heard from him. Historians still argue about whether grooming was a barrier to priesthood for some. Did it deter the timid? Did the fear of razors keep spiritual talent from blossoming? You hand him the blade again, and this time he doesn't flinch. He shaves his cheek slowly, steadily, then stops and touches his face. Soft, he murmurs. You smile. Like a clean thought. He chuckles. Or a wet frog. Close enough. Later, he thanks you with a gift, an amulet carved from soapstone. A simple eye, smooth as your skin. You hang it near your mat. Some training is worth remembering. A storm rolls in by dusk, rare and theatrical. You're caught outside the temple walls with a basket of new reeds for writing. The wind snatches at your robes, and the first drops slap your bare scalp with startling precision. You laugh aloud. There's something childlike about getting caught in rain without hair. No dripping bangs, no soggy curls. Just the sensation of sky meeting skin. You dash under an awning, reeds tucked under your arm, and watch the clouds churn. Nearby, other priests gather, their shorn heads glistening under the growing downpour. One of them jokes that Ra's tears have excellent exfoliating properties. Historians still debate whether weather played a role in shaving routines. Some say dry seasons made grooming easier, with fewer infections. Others argue rainy spells caused breakouts, requiring more ointments and frequent shaving to avoid festering. You recall an old scroll that advised, "Shave not when the rain god speaks." Sensible, maybe. But here you are, water running down your smooth arms, alive and laughing. A senior priest points out that lightning strikes are more dangerous for bald heads, no insulating hair. You nod solemnly, then add, "But at least we'll be aerodynamic." More laughter. The storm intensifies, and you sit with them under the stone overhang, passing around a jar of fig wine. It tastes sharp and sweet, like the sky itself is fermenting. The rain drums steadily, but no one rushes off to re-oil their skin or hide their gleam. For once, even the priests let the elements have their say. You lean back, water pooling at your collarbone. For all your rituals, your ointments, your sacred blades, some days, the sky just wins. And maybe that's holy too. The temple is quiet after the storm, save for the gentle dripping from the colonnades. You're in the archives, sorting grooming records. Yes, there are such things. Long scrolls list who was shaved, when, and by whom. It's like reading a barber's dream journal. You unfurl one from the reign of Samtic I. It includes a marginal note about a priest who fainted mid-shave, causing a minor scandal. The gods forgave him, the scribe wrote, but the high priest did not. There's something amusingly bureaucratic about the whole system. Miss a shave? That's an infraction. Use the wrong oil? Penalty. Get a rash and can't serve? Off the roster until healed. Historians still argue whether these grooming records were more spiritual or administrative. Were they prayers in ink, or just ancient HR files? You find one entry marked with a red symbol, rare. It details a traveling priest who claimed he didn't need to shave, for he was shaven by Dreamfire in the arms of Isis. He was either revered or dismissed. There's no follow-up. You shake your head. Dreamfire or not, you'll be shaving tomorrow like everyone else. You carefully roll the scroll back up and place it in its wooden tube. The script is faded, but the obsession is clear. Grooming wasn't vanity. It was system. Schedule. Scripture. And somewhere in that neat little file, you know your own name likely appears. A timestamp on smoothness. A footnote in a hairless legacy. The next ceremony is an outer rites procession, and for once, it includes the public. You and several others march slowly through the village streets, carrying incense and offerings. Crowds line the path, some curious, some reverent, some visibly amused. A child points at your gleaming scalp and whispers, "Do they polish them like bowls?" You suppress a laugh. Another voice chimes in, "No, they oil it with crocodile juice. My uncle told me." You glance sideways at a fellow priest, who smirks. The truth, as usual, is less exciting: lotus oil and patience. Scholars still wonder how commoners interpreted the priest's grooming. Did they see it as godly devotion, or theatrical spectacle? You wave gently to the crowd, maintaining composure. Inside, you're wondering what would happen if you stopped shaving altogether. Would people still bow? A chicken escapes from its coop and scurries across the procession path. The line halts, the crowd gasps, and one priest nearly drops the sacred basket. You use the opportunity to scratch your very itchy, very exposed forearm, one downside to being perpetually smooth. Eventually, the ceremony resumes, the scent of burnt resin curling around you. By the time you return to the temple, your feet are dusty, your skin sun-warmed, and your expression carefully neutral. Later that night, as you clean your limbs with a damp cloth, you think of the villagers' eyes. You are part mystery, part myth, and part high-maintenance walking candle. An older priest named Harvey collapses during morning chant. You rush over with others, helping him to sit. His eyes flutter open slowly, and he whispers, "I missed my oiling." It's not a joke. You carry him gently to his quarters, where he admits he's been skipping parts of his routine, shaving every other day, rushing the bomb. He's ashamed. You try to reassure him, but his voice is heavy with guilt. Historians often speculate whether grooming in ancient Egypt bordered on obsession. For priests like Harvey, it clearly became identity. A missed oiling wasn't just a skipped step, it was a moral failing. You offer to help him with today's routine. He agrees, eyes grateful but distant. You shave his scalp with slow, deliberate strokes. His skin is papery, and you use extra oil to protect it. As you work, he tells you of a time when shaving was an act of joy, when a smooth face meant a clean conscience. "I just wanted to be a mirror for the gods," he murmurs. When you finish, he looks lighter, somehow. He thanks you with a silent nod. You walk away wondering if this grooming, for all its structure and symbolism, might sometimes become a burden too heavy to hold. That night, you check your own shaving bowl, your own bombs, and wonder, how much of you is actually you? And how much is just, very well maintained? That evening, the temple holds a quiet ritual for Ma'at, goddess of balance. Fitting, given everything lately. The priests line up, robes immaculate, heads shining like alabaster. You stand among them, watching torchlight flicker against freshly shaved cheeks. As incense curls upward, you close your eyes and feel stillness. The chants roll through the hall like warm waves. Your breath slows. Your body, hairless and silent, feels like part of the architecture. Some scholars argue that this complete grooming was a way to erase individuality, priests as vessels, not personalities. But you're not sure that's right. You feel more like your real self when smooth. Like the person beneath the person finally shows up. Mid-ritual, a younger priest sneezes, and the harmony wobbles. No one reacts. This, too, is balance. The hymn continues. Order is the face of light, chaos the shadow of hair. You suppress a grin. That line always felt suspiciously poetic. But perhaps it's true. Or true enough to sing. The ritual ends in silence. You bow your head. You feel clean. Not just externally, but clean all the way through. Back in your chamber, the oil lamp casts a soft glow. You run your hand across your scalp. Smooth. Present. Whatever Ma'at asks, you've done your part. A scroll arrives from a southern temple, requesting help for an unusual grooming affliction. You're sent as part of a delegation, 3 days of travel downriver on a papyrus boat, shaved heads under wide cloth hats to avoid the sunburn that comes fast and sharp on unprotected scalps. When you arrive, the issue is clear: a strange rash has spread among the priests, and some have stopped shaving altogether. The high priest there greets you with visible distress. The gods do not recognize fuzzy men, he sighs. You examine the afflicted. It's likely a reaction to new resins. You prescribe milder salves, cooler water, and shaving with crushed cucumber balm. Historians still debate whether such outbreaks were recorded as spiritual curses or practical dermatological failures. In this case, it's probably both. While you're there, you notice something fascinating. Despite their unshaven faces, these priests haven't lost their rituals. Their chants still hum with reverence. Their offerings still glow. You ask one, "Do you feel less holy?" He shrugs. "Just itchier." Back at your boat, you write a short report, ending with, "Hair may grow, but faith remains." On the way home, your reflection in the water startles you: you've started to peel. Just a little sunburn. You smile, oil your head, and keep rowing. Back in your temple, the rhythm resumes: shave, chant, cleanse, repeat. But you notice something new. A priest who wears a faint shadow above his lip. Another who oils a slightly stubbled arm. Subtle, but definite shifts. You mention it to your mentor, who nods slowly. Change starts with whispers. It seems the southern temple's temporary rash has opened a small door. Not rebellion, just evolution. Some historians suggest that temple practices adapted over time, quietly. Rules never overturned, just softened at the edges. The blade dulled, but not discarded. You try going 2 days between shaves. No one says anything. You almost miss the sting of the razor. In the bathhouse, a conversation bubbles up: what if shaving was a phase? What if gods don't care? What if we've just been incredibly itchy for 300 years? You all laugh. Nervous laughter, maybe. But freeing, too. That night, you sit by the torchlight, fingers resting on your cheek. A faint prickliness. You don't feel less devoted. You feel curious. And maybe that's a kind of holiness too. You walk into the great temple at Esna, a little farther south now, your sandals scuffing along the sandstone floor. The walls here are dense with inscriptions, not just the typical prayers and hymns, but long tracts that detail, in painstaking care, what priests were to do, where, eat, recite, carry, and, unsurprisingly, shave. The Esna temple, dedicated to the ram-headed god Khnum, was famous not only for its decorative art but also for its obsession with ritual purity. And for you, the would-be priest, that means an even more grueling regimen of hairlessness than usual. You're reminded again that shaving wasn't just for ceremony. It was an act of cosmic alignment. The priests believed that body hair harbored not just sweat or grime, but spiritual impurity. Every follicle was a potential gate through which chaos could sneak in. And chaos, in Egyptian mythology, wasn't some abstract metaphor. It had a name: Isfet. The eternal nemesis of Ma'at, the goddess of order, balance, and cosmic harmony. A few stray chest hairs weren't just grooming failures, they were invitations to disorder. At Esna, the priesthood enforced a threefold purification cycle. Morning, midday, and dusk. Shaving occurred in rotation, sometimes daily, depending on your caste and the particular god you served. Historians still argue whether these regimens were fully enforced or aspirational nonsense inscribed by overzealous temple scribes trying to impress the gods, or perhaps their bosses. Still, the razors weren't merely practical tools. They were sacred instruments. Some were stored in linen-wrapped cedar boxes, anointed with oils and bound in spells. They had names. They had destinies. Imagine naming your shaving kit the Jaw of Ma'at, then whispering prayers to it before each use. A little intense, maybe. But hey, you've seen people today chant at their coffee machines. There's a faint metallic clink as a younger priest hands you a razor, bronze, curved, perfectly balanced. He bows, stepping away respectfully. Your task now? Remove all remaining hair from your forearms and eyebrows before entering the sanctuary. You blink. Eyebrows too? Apparently, yes. Though there's a minor debate among scholars about whether priests shaved them entirely or simply trimmed them short. Artistic depictions are inconsistent. Perhaps some priests resisted, clinging to their last two tufts of personality. But you comply. The room smells of resin, barley, and that ever-present myrrh. As you scrape away the fine down on your arm, you can't help but ponder what it felt like to do this day after day for decades. How do you even recognize your own face after 40 years with no beard, no brows, no lashes? Would you start dreaming of yourself hairless, too? The final ritual before entering the inner sanctuary involves a cold water rinse in silence. A symbolic death of the old self. You step into the basin, shivering slightly. The walls around you whisper hymns in painted hieroglyphs. Your breath fogs against the chill. You are, as they say, clean. But there's something else lingering on your mind. Not all temples were equal in how seriously they took these shaving laws. The farther you go from the political centers like Memphis or Thebes, the looser things get. In frontier towns, priests might only shave weekly. Scandalous. It's like showing up to yoga class without a mat. Or worse, wearing socks. Some scholars suggest that priests in border towns had to multitask, as scribes, physicians, or even grain counters, and didn't have the luxury of full-time grooming. Or perhaps the gods were more lenient out there, less fussy. After all, it's hard to enforce cosmic hygiene when there's a warband raiding the granaries. You towel off, the cloth coarse and sun-dried. A senior priest chants a short prayer from the Book of Coming Forth by Day. You recognize the lines, I have washed myself clean, I have removed my hair. I am pure. I am one who knows the secrets. A nice mantra, really. Could replace your modern affirmations. As you step into the sanctuary, your skin tingling from the cold, you are struck by how this entire shaving ritual, tedious as it is, has become something more. Not just about cleanliness or status or vanity. It's a psychological reset. A removal of everything that ties you to the outside world. A shedding of clutter, of noise, of distraction. A blank canvas. And maybe that's the secret they knew all along. That in the act of preparing the body, shaving, bathing, clothing, chanting, you prepare the mind. The priest does not just clean his flesh. He disciplines his attention. He resets his place in the universe. Whether the gods are real or not, the stillness is. And stillness is a kind of sacredness, isn't it? You breathe in. You step forward. You serve. By now, you've come to understand that shaving was only the visible half of purity. The invisible half? That was spiritual hygiene. And in ancient Egypt, nothing tested your inner cleanliness quite like funerary duties. Priests of Anubis, those eerie figures in jackal masks, had the grim honor of embalming the dead. And yes, they had to be completely hairless, too. You stand at the threshold of the embalming house, or, per Nefer, literally, the house of beauty. Odd name, given the smell. Inside, incense burners work overtime trying to mask the pungent cocktail of natron salt, resin, frankincense, and, well, decomposition. But it's not all grim. There's something oddly calm about the way everything is done slowly, methodically, and respectfully. The embalmer's assistant passes you a small bronze blade. Not for the body, those tools are stored separately, but for you. Before handling the corpse, you must shave your entire body once more, including the backs of your knees and the nape of your neck. You sigh. These gods really didn't believe in shortcuts. There's even a charm spoken before shaving, may my hair not carry away the breath of the dead. A poetic, if slightly unsettling, sentiment. You whisper it dutifully, your voice muffled by the gauzy linen over your mouth. Like modern surgeons, embalmers wore face coverings. Not for bacteria, but to avoid breathing death-tinged air into the sacred moment. Historians still argue whether these practices were purely religious or had an early grasp of sanitation. Did ancient embalmers intuit what germs were, in their own mystical way? Or was it all metaphor, breath as spirit, hair as memory? Once shaved, you assist in wrapping the body. Every bandage layer is accompanied by a verse. It's hypnotic, like singing to someone who's fallen asleep forever. You murmur blessings as you go, over the heart, over the hands, around the mouth. Each motion wraps not just the body but the soul. Your own bare skin prickles with goosebumps, not from cold, but reverence. There's a silence in the room that feels shared by centuries. The same rituals, the same gestures, the same effort to keep death orderly, even dignified. The priest's job is to maintain cosmic balance, even here, especially here. When the work is done, you wash again. Then burn your shaving cloth. Nothing used during this rite can be kept. The dead absorb everything. Hair, linen, even the water in your bowl, it all becomes part of their afterlife luggage. You step outside as the sun sinks. A colleague pats your shoulder. "You're one of us now," he says. And you feel it, not pride, not sorrow, but a steady, still weight. As if you've been filed into the great archive of history's quiet servants, you wake early, again, with the sound of temple bells humming faintly through the corridors. But today, something is different. There's a festival. Not the loud kind with dancers and wine, but a solemn commemoration of the goddess Neith, patron of creation and weaving, and, yes, sacred purification. You stretch and prepare for yet another full-body shave, now practically muscle memory. This time, though, it carries the added symbolism of offering your body as a woven garment of purity to the gods. The ritual garments today are made of particularly fine, almost translucent linen. You run your fingers over the folds, noting how even the weave seems to shimmer in the morning light. In fact, some historians believe the visibility of one's shaved body beneath these robes was intentional, a visible proof of spiritual obedience. A soft, sleepy fashion statement of devotion. Before you dress, a priest arrives with a shallow alabaster bowl filled with lotus-scented oil. He gestures for you to anoint your freshly shaved skin, arms, legs, chest, scalp. It stings slightly in places where your razor had been overzealous, but the scent is soothing, almost trance-inducing. You begin your walk to the outer courtyard, where the festival processions are assembling. There are priests carrying carved emblems of Neith, priestesses tossing petals, even a sacred scribe reading hymns in sing-song tones. But what catches your eye is the role you'll play today, standing at the basin of libations, offering purifying water to worshippers as they enter. You, the hairless gatekeeper of serenity. There's a rhythm to this work. Dip, pour, nod. Each worshipper holds out their hands. You tip the ladle of lotus water over their fingers. Some smile. Some whisper prayers. A child giggles at your smooth, shiny head. You smile back, imagining how strange you must look. But this is part of the role, the transformation of the body into something symbolic. Not yourself, not even a man, really. You are function. You are ritual. You are part of the smooth machinery of belief. It's during this endless repetition of dipping and pouring that your mind begins to wander. You think about how many centuries people have done exactly this, in exactly this way. Different temples. Different gods. But the same instinct, purify before contact. Scrub the mortal away. Reach for something cleaner. Historians still debate how seriously the average Egyptian took all this. Was it theater? Performance for the gods? Or did the very act of shaving and washing create a shift in consciousness, a liminal state between the world of men and the divine? As the festival winds down, you're summoned to the inner court. There, seated beneath an awning, are older priests chanting Neith's praises. One of them beckons you. He hands you a reed stylus and a strip of papyrus, indicating you should write your name. Not as a sign-in sheet, but as a symbolic act. You've been seen by Neith, he says. Now let her remember you. You kneel and scrawl your name slowly. Ink and papyrus, man's way of preserving what time forgets. And beneath your name, in trembling script, the priest adds 3 characters, one who offers clean hands. You blink at the simplicity of it. Not a warrior. Not a scholar. Not even a hero. Just someone who made others clean. And that's what most priests were. Helpers. Maintainers. Anonymous stewards of quiet. No one remembers the priest who shaved twice a day. But for a moment, you're aware that your quiet rituals, shaving, oiling, pouring water, were part of something infinitely larger. The wind picks up, rustling the linen tents around you. You bow your head, letting the breeze skim across your bare scalp like a quiet blessing. The temple walls have seen centuries, and your bare feet know each worn stone as well as your own hands. Today's task is different, cleaning the sacred chambers where the statues of gods reside. The Ankh, the Jed, the Was, symbols of life, stability, and power, stand silent and eternal, waiting for you to prepare their sanctuary. You imagine the gods watching, expecting your best effort. Before you start, you're reminded that the temple's cleanliness isn't just physical. It's spiritual, too. Every speck of dust could be a distraction for the divine, every hair a breach of order. That's why your shaving isn't vanity or mere ritual, but part of a sacred duty, to keep the god's house spotless, inside and out. You begin by sweeping the floors with a bundle of fragrant papyrus reeds. The scent is subtle but calming, a green reminder of the Nile's life-giving banks. You pause to inhale deeply, feeling the air fill your lungs with the essence of water and earth. Then, you dip a linen cloth in holy water and wipe down the stone plinths, careful not to disturb any of the tiny offerings left by worshippers, little beads of lapis lazuli, flakes of gold leaf, and miniature statues carved from alabaster. The sunlight filters through lattice windows, casting patterned shadows on your smooth skin. The contrast between light and shade reminds you of the balance priests must maintain, between the seen and unseen, the mortal and immortal, the messy world outside and the perfect order inside. You catch your reflection in a polished bronze bowl, a face framed by the bare scalp, the soft curve of your shaved neck, the glint of tired eyes. It's strange how something as simple as removing hair can feel like shedding a layer of the ordinary world. You are cleaner, yes, but also more exposed. Vulnerable, in a way that seems fitting for someone entrusted with divine secrets. As you wipe the last altar, you hear the faint rustle of a temple cat, its sleek fur gliding across the stone floor. Cats were sacred protectors, too, and their presence is a comforting reminder that cleanliness isn't just about people, but all life that shares the temple space. Interestingly, some scholars suggest that Egyptian priests might have been among the earliest proponents of hygiene, even if they didn't understand microbes. Their insistence on shaving and washing could have inadvertently reduced disease spread, an ancient proto-science hiding behind sacred custom. Still, others argue it was all symbolism, a physical expression of purity to prepare for contact with the gods, rather than practical health advice. Either way, as you finish, you feel a quiet satisfaction. You have cared for this sacred place, your body a part of the ritual harmony. The temple gleams softly in the afternoon light, ready for evening prayers. You take one last glance at the gleaming surfaces, the empty offering bowls, and step back, feeling your bare feet press against the cool floor, a silent connection to countless priests before you, all bare-skinned, all devoted to cleanliness as a form of reverence. Today's ritual is about fragrance. Yes, even priests had to smell good, or at least not smell bad. You're handed a small jar of kifi, the famed Egyptian incense blend whose recipe was guarded like a state secret. It's made from honey, wine, myrrh, frankincense, and a dozen other ingredients, some of which remain mysterious to modern scholars. You carefully grind the ingredients with a mortar and pestle, the sticky paste clinging to your fingers. The aroma is rich, complex, almost intoxicating. You close your eyes and imagine the countless times this scent filled temple chambers, wrapping worshippers in a spiritual haze. Applying kifi isn't just about pleasing the gods' noses. It's believed to purify the air, ward off evil spirits, and even soothe the mind. You dab a bit behind your ears, on your neck, and over your freshly shaved scalp. The warmth of the sun mixes with the incense's sweetness, and you feel a gentle buzz of calm settle over you. This blending of scent and shaved skin was more than a hygiene ritual, it was a form of meditation, a way to prepare both body and soul for sacred service. Some historians argue kifi was an early aromatherapy, used to ease anxiety and fatigue during long temple ceremonies. As you walk through the temple corridors, the faint trail of kifi marks your passage like a secret signature. A young apprentice eyes you curiously, inhaling deeply. "You smell like the gods," he whispers, half joking, half in awe. You grin. If smelling divine was a job requirement, you were acing it. Later, during the evening offerings, the incense smoke curls and spirals upward, mingling with the soft chants. You notice how the smell seems to soften the hard edges of the temple, making even stone feel gentle. There's a scholarly debate about whether the ingredients of kifi had any real medicinal effects or if its power was purely symbolic. Either way, the ritual's soothing effect is undeniable. As you prepare to rest, the lingering fragrance clings to your skin and clothes, a subtle reminder that even in ancient times, humans understood the calming power of scent. Your bare head glistens faintly in the fading light, and you think about how something as simple as fragrance and shaving could weave together into a tapestry of ancient comfort and devotion. The day shifts gently into evening, and with it comes the time for the nightly ablutions, a ritual to cleanse the body before rest. You stand beside a stone basin filled with cool Nile water, its surface shimmering under flickering oil lamps. Your razor lies nearby, waiting for the familiar task of shaving away the day's growth. There's a rhythm to the motion. The razor's edge glides smoothly over your skin, whisking away any trace of hair, revealing the smooth, glowing surface beneath. This isn't just about appearance, it's about ritual purity, a final act of devotion before surrendering to sleep. The water feels cool and soothing as you splash it over your hands and face, the gentle droplets chasing away fatigue. In the soft lamplight, the temple's shadows dance lazily on the walls, blending with the quiet murmurs of evening prayers. You pause to reflect on how this routine connects you to generations past. Priests for centuries have performed these same ablutions, finding comfort in the simplicity of cleansing, shaving, and preparing for rest. Historians still debate whether these rituals had practical health benefits or served primarily as symbolic acts of spiritual readiness. A faint scent of lotus lingers in the air, a delicate reminder of the river's presence, life-giving and eternal. It's said the lotus symbolizes rebirth, making this nightly cleansing not just a physical act but a metaphor for renewal. You catch a glimpse of your reflection in the basin's water, a bare, smooth head bowed in quiet reverence. The cool water feels like a soft embrace, washing away not just dirt but the burdens of the day. As you finish, you wrap yourself in a simple linen robe, feeling the soft fabric against your freshly shaved skin. The familiar comfort of ritual seeps into your bones, inviting calm and rest. Outside, the temple's nocturnal creatures begin their gentle songs, crickets chirping, a distant owl's call. You close your eyes, letting the peaceful sounds and the cleansing ritual ease you toward sleep. And as the temple settles into stillness, so do you, a part of the ancient rhythm. Smooth-skinned and serene, the temple's nights are long and quiet, broken only by soft chants and the occasional rustle of linen. But even in darkness, your duties as a priest never fully cease. Midnight brings a moment of solitude, perfect for reflection and whispered prayers to the gods. You sit cross-legged on the cool stone floor, the shaved skin of your scalp absorbing the gentle chill. In this stillness, you remember the ancient instructions passed down through generations: cleanliness is next to divinity. Your smooth skin is a symbol of purity, a canvas ready to receive the blessings of the night. You feel the faint brush of a gentle breeze, carrying the scent of the desert and the distant river. Some scholars argue that this nightly solitude was as much about mental preparation as spiritual connection, an early form of meditation, perhaps, designed to center the mind and calm the restless soul. You trace the intricate carvings on the temple walls, letting your fingers glide over hieroglyphs that tell stories of gods, kings, and the delicate balance of Ma'at, the cosmic order. The contrast between these eternal stories and your temporary, shaved body feels grounding. A small stone lamp flickers nearby, casting wavering shadows that seem to dance in time with your breath. You find humor in the thought that such a simple tool, a blade to shave, a lamp to light, forms the backbone of this ancient, sacred life. The temple cats, those silent sentinels, pad softly through the chambers, their sleek forms a reminder that purity and vigilance go hand in hand. You absent-mindedly reach out to stroke one, marveling at its warmth against your bare skin. As the night deepens, you feel the rhythm of temple life slowing, the collective breath of priests, worshippers, and the gods themselves softening into rest. You remind yourself, as the scholars do, that these quiet moments, these rituals of cleanliness and contemplation, were as vital to ancient Egyptian spirituality as the grand ceremonies in daylight. And so, with a calm heart and smooth head, you prepare to join that shared rest. The dawn's first light creeps gently through the temple's high windows, casting soft golden beams that touch the cool stone floor where you rest. You awaken to the familiar call of birds outside and the faint murmur of the Nile flowing nearby. It's time to begin again, another day of devotion, ritual, and the steady maintenance of sacred cleanliness. You rise, feeling the smoothness of your shaved scalp catch the morning light, almost glowing with an inner purity. Today, you prepare for the morning offerings, a ceremony as old as the temple itself, where food, drink, and fragrant oils are presented to the gods to sustain their favor and protect the land. There's a calm in these early moments, a sacred stillness before the temple stirs fully to life. You dress in fine linen robes, the fabric light and airy against your freshly shaved skin. The simplicity of your appearance, bare, clean, and unadorned, serves as a silent testament to your role as an intermediary between the mortal world and the divine. You carefully arrange the offerings: fresh bread, figs, a small jar of honey, and a cup of pure water from the Nile. Each item is chosen with reverence, meant to nourish the gods as they nourish the people. As you set the table, you think about how shaving your body was never simply about aesthetics. It was a sign of dedication, an outward expression of the inner discipline required to serve the gods. Some historians still debate whether this practice originated primarily from hygienic concerns or spiritual symbolism, but for you, the answer feels clear: both are intertwined. With a steady hand, you light incense, watching the smoke curl upward, carrying prayers and hopes into the air. The temple slowly fills with soft sounds, footsteps of fellow priests, the distant bleating of sacrificial animals, the gentle clinking of ritual vessels. As you step forward to begin the offering prayers, you feel a deep connection to the centuries of priests before you, each one shaving away the past day to step renewed into service. Your shaved head and bare skin are more than ritual, they are a quiet declaration of humility and readiness. Outside, the world awakens, and inside the temple, you find peace in this ancient, enduring routine. The temple's rhythm moves onward, and soon you find yourself in the sacred garden, a quiet oasis filled with date palms, papyrus reeds, and fragrant flowers. The early morning air is cool and carries the sweet scent of blooming lotus. As a priest, your connection to this green sanctuary is deeply symbolic, a living reminder of life's cycle and renewal. You walk barefoot on soft earth, feeling the grains press gently between your toes, a stark contrast to the polished stone inside the temple. Your smooth, shaved skin glistens slightly under the sun, an outward sign of your sacred cleanliness. Here, in the garden, you tend to the medicinal herbs used for temple remedies: aloes, juniper berries, and myrrh trees. You carefully prune and collect leaves, mindful that these plants have been cultivated for centuries to heal bodies and soothe souls. It said that the shaved head and clean body helped priests avoid contamination while handling these precious plants, maintaining both physical and ritual purity. Some scholars suggest this practice influenced early ideas of hygiene and infection control, though that remains a topic of debate. As you pause to inhale the earthy aroma of crushed leaves, you notice a small lizard darting between the stones, nature's quiet companion to your sacred duties. The gentle hum of bees buzzes nearby, pollinating the flowers, weaving the delicate web of life. You smile, thinking about how this tiny creature, oblivious to human rituals, thrives alongside your careful, deliberate acts of worship. You pick a sprig of mint and crush it between your fingers, releasing a fresh, cool scent that mingles with the warm air. It's moments like these, simple, sensory, and slow, that remind you why the shaving ritual is so much more than habit. It's a daily return to clarity, a shedding of distractions. As you prepare to leave the garden, you catch a glimpse of your reflection in a water basin, a smooth head framed by green leaves, a living symbol of balance between body, spirit, and nature. The temple's day winds down with the evening recitations, soft chants that echo gently through the stone halls. You find your place among fellow priests, the smoothness of your shaved scalp catching the flickering candlelight. Tonight's texts focus on the balance of Ma'at, that delicate cosmic order you've served your entire life. The words flow slowly, measured, carrying ancient wisdom about truth, justice, and harmony. You feel the steady pulse of the group, a collective breath held in reverence. It's a moment where time seems to stretch, where history, ritual, and spirit intertwine like threads in a finely woven tapestry. You glance around and notice how the shaved heads of your companions create a sea of polished light, a silent testament to devotion. It's a practice so ingrained that you barely notice the absence of hair anymore, just the presence of calm and focus. Interestingly, some historians argue whether the collective shaving was purely spiritual or if it also served practical community functions, like preventing lice or other nuisances. Regardless, for you, the ritual remains a deeply personal and shared experience. As the chanting winds down, the temple grows quieter, the shadows longer. You close your eyes briefly and feel the smooth skin of your scalp, a familiar comfort that centers you after a long day. The scent of burned incense lingers, mingling with the cool evening air drifting through open windows. Somewhere outside, a nightingale begins its gentle song, blending seamlessly with the temple's stillness. You breathe deeply, feeling a profound connection to all who have walked these halls before you, their bare heads bowed in silent prayer and service. This timeless ritual, wrapped in shaved skin and sacred words, is a quiet celebration of devotion, a tender lullaby for your spirit. As the night deepens, the temple quiets to a hushed stillness, and you find yourself alone with the soft glow of oil lamps. Your fingers trace the familiar smoothness of your freshly shaved scalp, a tactile reminder of the discipline and purity that mark your daily life. It's a small, intimate ritual, this shaving, an act that sets you apart and draws you closer to the divine. You settle onto a stone bench, the cool surface grounding you as you reflect on the unbroken chain of priests who've practiced these rituals for millennia. Each shave, each prayer, each breath a quiet echo of ancient devotion. The temple walls seem to breathe with you, carrying the weight of countless prayers whispered into the night. You hear the faint rustle of papyrus scrolls and the soft patter of footsteps long gone, yet ever present in this sacred space. Historians still argue whether the shaving was primarily about physical cleanliness, spiritual symbolism, or a blend of both, but here and now, it feels like a perfect harmony of body and soul. The night air carries the scent of lotus and myrrh, calming your mind and body, coaxing you toward rest. Your thoughts drift gently, as if cradled by the soft hum of temple life and the endless flow of the Nile outside. You close your eyes, feeling the smoothness of your skin, the softness of your linen robe, and the steady beat of your heart slowing with the temple's rhythm. This ancient practice, simple yet profound, has been your daily companion, a ritual of renewal, humility, and peace. With a final breath, you let go of the day's cares, surrendering to sleep, wrapped in the quiet grace of shaved skin and sacred duty. The night wraps around you like a gentle, comforting shawl, softening the edges of your thoughts and the lingering warmth of your day. Your breath slows, steady and even, as the temple's quiet hum fades softly into the background, becoming part of your peaceful rest. You feel the smoothness of your skin, cool and clean, a subtle reminder of the care you've taken, an intimate ritual that connects you to centuries of devotion and calm. The scent of lotus and myrrh lingers, delicate and soothing, like a whispered lullaby sung by the night itself. Outside, the stars glitter faintly over the Nile, their distant light a soft companion to your dreams. You imagine the gentle flow of the river, steady and unhurried, carrying away the day's concerns with each passing moment. There is a quiet dignity in these rituals, a patient rhythm that has outlasted empires and centuries, bringing calm to restless minds and bodies. As you drift deeper into sleep, know that this ancient practice continues, not as a forgotten relic, but as a timeless embrace, a peaceful passage from wakefulness to rest. Let the softness of this moment hold you, the smoothness of your skin, the whisper of the temple's prayers, and the slow, steady pulse of history cradle you gently until morning.